Good evening. You're listening to an episode of Thorn in Your Side. And I'm your host, C. Thorn. This is the podcast where I talk about information and opinions, both popular and unpopular, related to random topics, both serious and non-serious. Feel free to listen because it needs to be said. Besides, you already pressed the play button. So look over here, stop what you're doing, and prepare to be entertained and informed. Yep, I'm tired. Not only has it been really hot outside, but for the last couple of days, that gangsta gotcha whale and TLC fanboy, the channel, not the girl group, have been in my house. Those two, they have to be the cringiest people I've ever dealt with in my entire life. They keep going on and on about their obsessions. But I don't want to kick them out yet because we're not completely done talking about lolies. Fortunately, that whale and fanboy aren't here right now because they went to see that Barbie movie. You know, the movie based on the popular toy for girls. I'm not surprised at all that it's doing great in the box office, especially since the marketing team spent several months and lots of money advertising it. I might end up watching it soon, but that's not important. Well, the Barbie movie wasn't the only thing that took over the weekend. There was the San Diego Comic Convention, otherwise known as San Diego Comic-Con. It's the yearly gathering of people who are big fans of video games, cartoons, comic books, and other media. Several companies go there to show off their upcoming projects. And you'll see plenty of people dressed up in cool costumes. I would love for someone to make me a cool costume, especially one that looks like a werewolf or dragon. I would love that. I would love it. But I digress. As you would expect, there were several announcements, trailers, and sneak peeks related to video games. Some of them were really awesome and cool, but other reveals weren't so well received. In fact, the reasons for some of these announcements not being well received are quite unfortunate, and it's something that really needs to be talked about. Now, to everyone out there who likes to play video games, reading comic books, watching cartoons, as well as the companies who create these items, I don't mean to be a thorn in your side, but society needs to start appreciating ethnic hairstyles. Oh yeah, I went there. Everybody needs to start appreciating and getting used to seeing ethnic hairstyles. In case you don't know, ethnic hairstyles is a term used to describe hairstyles that embraces a person's natural hair. Usually, it's the unique hairstyles worn by minorities. Some of these hairstyles are pretty cool, while some are very extravagant. Either way, it's a nice way for people of color to express themselves. Whether they're using weave or their actual hair, it doesn't matter. The most common types of ethnic hairstyles include braids, dreadlocks, and afros. Not sure which one is the most popular, but they all get their fair share of attention. Anyway, one of the upcoming games that received a noticeable amount of attention at Comic-Con was Mortal Kombat 1. Yep, that's right. That franchise is still active. In case you didn't know, Mortal Kombat is a fighting game franchise known for its excessive violence, gore, and over-the-top finishing moves known as fatalities. Seriously, I'm not kidding when I say that some of those finishing moves in those games are truly graphic, brutal, and outright nightmare fuel. It's an M-rated franchise, which means the game is meant for adults aged 18 and older. Not sure why certain parents allow their young kids to play these extremely violent video games, but I digress. Despite the name, Mortal Kombat 1 is not the first game in the franchise. I'm not really sure why the developers, NetherRealm Studios, gave it that name, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the game's storyline. I'll admit that I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game in years, so I really don't know what's going on. I'm borderline clueless when it comes to the storyline, so don't ask me. Unfortunately, when the developers unveiled some new and returning characters that will be joining the roster, there was some noticeable backlash from the fans. Apparently, one of the returning characters that several fans didn't approve of was a woman of color named Tanya. The reason? Her hair. I kid you not, people. Her hair. Tanya has been in several Mortal Kombat games and is quite popular. For the upcoming game, the developers decided to give her an ethnic hairstyle that highlights her natural hair. Braids. To me, it looks really nice. In fact, it looks fancy because she's wearing some kind of hair jewelry. And I'm assuming that's the proper term. Not sure if that's the proper term, but she's wearing some jewelry in her hair. So, yeah, I'm calling it hair jewelry. Either way, there are people who hate her new appearance because of her hair. Isn't that sad? It's 2023, and people are getting upset over a fictional character's hairstyle. Come on now. Her hair is neither offensive nor inappropriate. So what's the problem? Do these haters realize how ridiculous they sound? There has to be another reason, because I find it hard to believe that people would complain about a natural hairstyle. Especially since you wouldn't pay attention to it that much once you start playing the game. It just seems like Tanya is getting all this negative feedback, and it's not even justified. Then again, I guess you can say this is a simple case of hair discrimination. Believe it or not, it's somewhat common for women of color to be treated differently just for having an ethnic hairstyle. If it's a hairstyle that shows off their natural hair, then there's a chance she might be treated unfairly. In previous Mortal Kombat games, Tanya had long black hair, and no one had an issue with it. Since she's now rocking an ethnic hairstyle, people seem to be triggered by that. Triggered by a hairstyle. A hairstyle of a fictional character. I would say the main problem here is that the United States, as well as certain other countries, focus a lot on Eurocentric beauty standards, which are beauty standards spearheaded by Europeans and Caucasians. For example, the typical quote-unquote beautiful woman will most likely have thin lips, a petite nose, and long, straight hair. All of these are qualities of the average European/Caucasian woman. You see these kind of standards in movies, video games, cartoons, and almost everywhere else. That's not fair to the people who don't have those qualities. And everyone should know by now that beauty comes in many shapes, shades, and sizes. Just to reiterate, I had no plans of being a thorn in your side. But our society needs to stop hating on ethnic hairstyles and start appreciating them instead. Whenever there's a woman of color on screen, why not give her a cool ethnic hairstyle? Yes, straight long hair can look nice. Trust me, it does. But the same can be said about braids, afro puffs, and curls. It can be agreed that the main reason why certain people are upset with Tanya's new appearance is because it deviates from the Eurocentric standards of beauty. She no longer has straight long hair. Instead, she has braids. People have gotten so used to Eurocentric beauty standards being the only standard for beauty. And that's not good one bit. My final point is that if you casually believe it's okay to dislike a character because of an ethnic hairstyle, then shut your mouth. Seriously, shut up. As I said earlier, it's hair discrimination. And if you don't like a certain hairstyle, then it might be good for you to find out why. Does that character's hair offend you? Does it make you feel uncomfortable and scared? Or do you just prefer hairstyles that you're used to seeing? By the way, hair discrimination isn't exclusive to females. Although not as often, males have to deal with this nonsense as well. Another game that was showcased at Comic-Con was Spider-Man 2. And no, not the movie or a game of the same name that's based on that movie. It's a little confusing, trust me. One of the main characters is a color guy named Miles Morales. And some fans didn't like the fact that the developers gave him dreads. What the heck, people? His hair looks cool, so leave him alone. It just goes to show that certain people just don't like ethnic hairstyles. And that's probably why companies keep using Eurocentric fashion standards for their characters, because they don't want to risk upsetting their fan base. As we all know, some people get really upset over the smallest things, especially when it comes to diversity. Not surprisingly, there are people in the video game modding community who take matters into their own hands. In other words, they would literally hack a game in order to change the appearance of a character, stage, etc. At first, these modders would give some of the characters really cool outfits. And trust me, they're cool. I've seen some and I'm like, whoa, y'all did a good job. But then there are modders who change a character's base appearance. In other words, they would change the character's hairstyle, lip size, eye shape, the size of their nose, skin tone, and other facial features. Obviously, this means they don't like the character's default appearance, which includes their default ethnic background. I could understand if this was a legit character creation tool, because let's be serious, those are always awesome. But it's not. As a reminder, there are people willing to hack a game just because they're uncomfortable with a certain character's ethnic background. That's not good. That's horrible. And sad, actually. I truly hope that people will start being more accepting of ethnic hairstyles. And let's hope more companies will start showcasing them. Video games, movies, cartoons, comic books, TV shows, you name it. Besides, I'm thinking about growing my hair out so I can walk around with dreadlocks and maybe a mohawk. But I digress. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Thorn and Your Side. Now I'm your host, Z Thorn. Feel free to follow, share, tweet, subscribe, comment, post, and maybe something else. And there'll be another lovely episode next week. And remember, be smart and stay sharp.